a second-generation trucker with 23 years of hauling freight through every back road and interstate from Kentucky to California. My dad taught me the life. Keep your eyes on the road, your hands on the wheel, and never trust a shortcut that feels too good to be true. I've seen odd things out there. Fog that moves like it's alive, headlights that blink in patterns, shadows that don't match their source. Never scared me. I'm built for this. But last May, on a lonesome stretch of Kentucky back road, something found me. Something that carved its warning into my soul. Stick to the road. It was 1 a.m., and I was hauling a load of tractor parts from Lexington to Chattanooga. I-75 was a mess. Gridlock, brake lights stretching for miles, some accident clogging the artery. I was tired, cranky, and behind schedule. So I did what I'd done 100 times before. I took a detour. Old Mill Road, a narrow ribbon of asphalt off the highway, promised a quick bypass through the woods. The sign was faded, leaning like it hadn't been touched in years, but I didn't need a map. I shut off my GPS. Instinct's always been my guide. The road dove into a forest, dark and silent, my rig's headlights slicing through the black. The trees were thick, their branches twisted like fingers, and the air felt heavy, like it was pressing down on the cab. No critters, no wind, just a dead quiet that made my ears ring. The smell of wet moss and decay crept in, even with the windows up. I kept my speed steady. The engine's rumble my only company, but the road went on and on. No turns, no signs. Just endless asphalt swallowed by the woods. Why was this road so quiet, and where was it taking me? A few miles in, I noticed a tree, gnarled, its branches clawing at the sky, like a hand reaching out of a grave. It stood on the left, stark against the forest, its bark twisted into knots that looked almost human. I shook it off, kept driving. 5 miles later, there it was again. Same tree, same claw-like branches, but now on the right. My stomach knocked. I'd been driving straight, no curves, no loops. Trees don't move. I checked the odometer, 5 miles exactly. My hands tightened on the wheel, the hairs on my neck standing up. Then my satellite radio, always tuned to classic rock, crackled. Static at first, then whispers, faint, overlapping, like a crowd murmuring just out of reach. I turned the volume down, but the whispers didn't stop. They grew clearer, saying my name, Hank. I froze, my heart pounding. Then, out of nowhere, a faint jingle. Jingle bells, clear as day, though it was May. I slammed the radio off, but the tune lingered, humming in my head like it was stuck on repeat. How did the tree move? And why was my radio playing Christmas music in spring? I pressed on, the road narrower now, the trees closing in until their branches scraped the sides of my trailer. The claw tree appeared again, back on the left, identical, its knotted bark glinting in my headlights like wet skin. My mouth went dry. 3 times now, in a straight line. I checked the mirrors, half expecting to see the tree behind me. But there was nothing, just darkness, thick and heavy, like it was watching. The whispers came back, louder, not from the radio, but from the cab itself, circling me. Hank, stay. Then I saw it, a semi just ahead, its taillights glowing red in the gloom. I squinted, my high beams catching the license plate. My blood ran cold. The last 3 digits, 472, matched my own. No 2 rigs have the same plate, not like that. I flashed my lights, honked the horn, but the semi didn't slow. It sped up, its engine roaring, then vanished. Gone, like it drove into the air itself. The road was empty again, the whispers now a chant. Hank, stick to the road. Was that truck real, and how did it disappear? My heart hammered, my hands slick on the wheel. I glanced at my GPS, though I'd turned it off. The screen flickered on, unprompted, showing a map that made no sense. Western Europe, a tangle of roads in Germany or Poland, zooming in and out like it was searching for me. The coordinates spun, numbers flashing too fast to read, then froze. Location unknown. I slammed the power button, but the screen stayed on, glowing blue in the dark cab. The road ahead changed. Black asphalt turned rough, uneven, then stopped dead, swallowed by trees and a thick fog that rolled in like a tide. I hit the brakes, the trailer groaning, but the fog was everywhere, choking the headlights, curling into the cab through the vents. The rotten smell was overpowering now, like a slaughterhouse left to fester. Then I saw it. A figure, floating just above the ground, drifting toward me through the fog. It was tall, too tall, its limbs long and thin, bending wrong like branches of that claw tree. Its face was a blur, but its eyes burned, 2 white points in the haze, and it whispered my name, Hank. What was that figure, and why was it calling me? My body went cold, my skin prickling like I'd been dipped in ice. I felt heavy, sluggish, like time itself was slowing down. My hands, gripping the wheel, looked wrong, wrinkled, spotted, like they'd aged decades in seconds. I glanced in the side mirror, and my face, God, my face wasn't mine. Gray hair, deep lines, eyes sunken like I'd lived another 15 years. My breath came in gasps, the whispers now a scream in my head. Stick to the road. I threw the rig into reverse, the engine screaming as I backed through the fog. The figure didn't follow, but its eyes stayed on me, burning through the haze. The trees parted, the asphalt reappeared, and suddenly I was back on I-75, the familiar yellow lines glowing under my headlights. The GPS was off, the cab warm, the rotten smell gone. I checked the mirror again. My face was mine, but my hands still trembled, and a streak of gray ran through my hair that hadn't been there before. How did I age in minutes, and what pulled me back to the highway? I didn't stop until I hit a truck stop outside Chattanooga, the neon sign buzzing like a lifeline. The lot was packed with rigs, the diner loud with drivers swapping stories. I stumbled in, my legs weak, and ordered coffee, black, to steady my nerves. The waitress, a woman with a name tag reading Doris, noticed my hand shaking. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said, her voice soft but sharp. "You ever hear anything about Old Mill Road?" I asked, barely meeting her eyes. Her face tightened, her eyes darting to the window. "You didn't take it, did you? That road's not right. Drivers go in, but not all come out." She slid a napkin across the counter, a single word scrawled in pen. "Don't." What did Doris know, and why was she so afraid to say it? I couldn't let it go. A week later, I was at a bar in Knoxville, nursing a beer, when I mentioned Old Mill Road to another driver. Most shrugged it off, but an old-timer, his face creased like a road map, leaned in. "You saw the tree, didn't you? And the truck," he said, his voice low. "How'd you know?" I asked, my throat dry. He didn't smile. "That road's been trouble since the 50s. Construction crew vanished out there, working a night job. No bodies, no equipment, just a claw-shaped tree left behind. Drivers see things, trees that move, trucks that ain't there, voices telling them to stay. They say the road's alive, and it don't let go easy." "What's it want?" I said, my voice shaking. He pointed to a photo on the wall, a faded shot of a forest, dated 1958. In the center was that tree, its branches twisted like claws, and in the foreground, a black leather glove, crusted with frost, though the photo was taken in summer. Was that tree alive, and what did it want with me? I don't take back roads anymore. I stick to the interstates, no matter the traffic, but the whispers follow me. At night, when I'm parked, I hear them, faint, chanting my name, humming jingle bells in the dead of summer. The smell of rot lingers, seeping into the cab no matter how tight I seal it. Last week, I found a glove under my bunk, black leather, stiff with frost, though it was 85 degrees outside. I burned it in a fire pit, watched it curl and blacken, but the smell didn't go away. Last night my CB crackled, though I hadn't touched it in months. That voice, slow and deep, filled the cab. "Hank, stick to the road." I smashed the radio, but the whispers didn't stop. They're in my head now. That tree, that figure, that warning. I don't know what's out there on Old Mill Road. I don't know if it's a ghost, a curse, or something older, something hungrier. But I know it's waiting, and I know I'll never stray from the highway again. Will I ever escape the pull of Old Mill Road? If this story gave you chills, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You never know what's coming next. I'm Dale, a trucker with 18 years hauling loads across the West, from the Rockies to the Pacific. I've seen my share of strange coyotes with eyes that glow too bright, CB chatter that sounds like it's from another century, rest stops where the air feels like it's holding its breath. None of it ever rattled me. I'm a Wyoming man, raised on open skies and long hauls. But last winter, on a midnight run from Cheyenne to Salt Lake City, something found me. Something that tore through my rig, my load, and damn near my sanity. It was just past midnight, and I was hauling a refrigerated trailer full of bacon, 40,000 pounds of it, bound for a distributor in Utah. I-80 cut through southern Wyoming, a lonely stretch of asphalt flanked by a sea of wind turbines, their red warning lights blinking in the dark like 1,000 sleepless eyes. The sky was clear, stars sharp as glass, but the cold was brutal, seeping into the cab despite the heater. My headlights carved a path through the night, the hum of the engine and the faint crackle of my CB, my only company. Then I noticed the turbines. Their red lights, usually blinking at random, started to sync up, pulsing together, then fading out, one by one, until the horizon was black. All except two lights, low to the ground, steady and red, moving in unison toward my rig. Not blinking, not fading, just gliding, like eyes tracking me through the dark. My gut twisted. Those weren't turbine lights. They were too close, too low, and moving too fast. What were those lights, and why were they coming for me? I gripped the wheel, my knuckles white, and kept my speed steady at 65. The lights grew closer, weaving through the turbines, their glow casting long shadows across the snow-dusted plains. I flipped on my high beams, but they didn't catch anything. Just empty road and those two red points, now maybe 100 yards out. My CB crackled, spitting static, then a low growl, not human, not mechanical, vibrating through the cab. I turned it off, but the growl didn't stop. It was outside now, circling, like something was pacing my rig. The lights were 50 yards away, closing fast. I pushed the accelerator, the engine roaring, but the rig felt heavy, sluggish, like it was fighting me. Then, bam! A jolt rocked the trailer, metal screeching like it had been clawed open. The rig swerved, tires screaming, and I fought to keep it on the road. The lights vanished, the growl gone, but the trailer fishtailed, something dragging it from behind. I glanced in the side mirror and saw a gaping hole in the trailer's side, big enough to crawl through, edges jagged like they'd been torn by hand. What hit my trailer, and how could it rip through steel? I pulled over, heart pounding, the rig shuddering as I cut the engine. The turbines loomed in the dark, their lights still off, the plane silent except for the wind hissing through the hole in my trailer. I grabbed my shotgun from the bunk, a 12-gauge loaded with slugs, and my maglite, its beam steady despite my shaking hands. The air outside was frigid, smelling of diesel and something else, wet, coppery, like blood. I circled to the trailer, the snow crunching under my boots, and aimed the light at the hole. Inside, the bacon was shredded, pallets torn apart, plastic wrap dangling like entrails, meat strewn across the floor, glistening with blood. Not pig blood. This was fresh, dark, pooling on the aluminum like oil. Then I heard it, a snarl, low and wet, coming from the shadows inside. My light caught something moving, fast, scaly, black as tar. Its eyes those same red lights I'd seen. It was big, too big, its body twisted, half broken, a slug from my shotgun buried in its side. It lunged, snarling, and slammed me to the ground, its claws raking my jacket, its breath hot and rancid. What was that creature, and how was it still alive? I fired again, point blank, the shotgun's roar deafening. The thing screamed, a sound like metal grinding on bone, and scrambled off me, vanishing into the dark. I lay there, panting, my chest burning where its claws had grazed me. Blood trickled down my arm, but I was alive. I staggered to my feet, sweeping the light across the plains. Nothing. No tracks, no blood, just snow and turbines, their red lights flickering back on, one by one, like they'd been watching. I climbed back to the trailer, my legs shaking, and checked the hole again. The bacon was worse now. Centuries worth, it seemed, shredded beyond salvage, drenched in that dark blood. I slammed the doors shut, locked them, and got back in the cab. My hands were steady enough to drive, but my mind was racing. I floored it, the rig groaning, the hole in the trailer whistling like a scream. The turbine's lights blinked in my mirrors, syncing up again, then fading, except for two red points, low and steady, watching me go. Why was the creature's blood gone, and what were those lights still doing? I didn't stop until I hit a way station outside Rock Springs, its fluorescent lights a lifeline in the dark. The lot was empty, the station closed, but I parked under the brightest light and checked the trailer again. The hole was there, edges jagged, but the blood was gone. Not a drop, not a smear. The bacon was still ruined, meat torn like it had been clawed apart, but the floor was clean, dry, like nothing had bled at all. I swept my light outside, to where I'd shot the creature. No body, no tracks, just undisturbed snow. My own blood from the scratches on my arm was the only proof anything had happened. I radioed dispatch, my voice shaking, and told them the load was compromised. They didn't ask questions, just said to dump it at the nearest facility and head home. No explanation needed, no report filed. That wasn't normal. Dispatch always wants paperwork, always wants answers. But the guy on the line sounded off, like he knew something he wasn't saying. I drove to a disposal site in Salt Lake City, watched the bacon get incinerated, and didn't look back. Why didn't dispatch care? And what were they hiding? I hit a trucker bar in Ogden that night, needing a drink to steady my nerves. I mentioned the turbines, the creature, the lights. Most drivers laughed, called it a tall tale, but an old-timer, his hands scarred from years on the road, didn't. "You saw it," he said, his voice low. "The thing out by the turbines." "What do you know about it?" I asked, my throat tight. He leaned in, eyes narrowing. "Been stories for decades. Drivers on I-80, always at night, see lights that ain't turbines. Something lives out there, in the plains, older than the wind farms, older than the roads. It hunts rigs, tears them open, takes what it wants. They say it's tied to a crash in '79. A reefer went off the road, driver and cargo gone. They found the trailer weeks later, clawed up, blood inside, but no bodies." "What's it want?" I said, my voice barely a whisper. He didn't answer, just slid a napkin across the bar. Scrawled on it was a single word, "Don't." What was that creature, and why did it let me live? "I don't haul through Wyoming anymore." I stick to southern routes, brighter roads, where the turbines don't watch. But the growl follows me. At night when I'm parked, I hear it, low, wet, circling my rig. The smell of blood lingers, faint but sharp. In my cab, my clothes, my dreams. Last week I found something under my seat. A black leather glove crusted with frost, though it was 70 degrees outside. I burned it in a rest stop fire pit, watched it curl and blacken, but the smell didn't go away. Last night, my CB crackled, though I hadn't touched it in months. A snarl, not a voice, filled the cab. "Dale, come back!" I smashed the radio, but the growl didn't stop. It's in my head now, those lights, that creature, its claws. I don't know what's out there on I-80. I don't know if it's a demon, a ghost, or something older, something hungrier. But I know it's waiting, and I know I'll never drive that stretch alone again. Will I ever escape the thing that found me in Wyoming? If this story gave you chills, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You never know what's coming next.